Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. All right. There was a little time here where the webinars got super slow, Beth. It was kind of, I think during COVID, nobody had a whole lot to do inside the centers because nobody was there.
Yep.
And webinars went crazy, and we saw numbers like we never saw before. And then it seemed like the end of this year, everybody was just hair on fire. But it's great because we put these things on YouTube and we communicate with everyone, and we get thousands of hours a day watched on our YouTube channel. And by the way, yeah, Marissa, are you going to share our YouTube channel? And I'll get started. I'll get started. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Scott Wayman. I'm the founder and CEO here at Kangarootime. Thank you so much for joining us. I have with me Beth Cannon. Beth is one of our partners and friends, and she comes to us as a oh, look at me. There's my cry face. Beth, have you seen our documentary?
No, I saw that it was produced, but I have not watched it.
Yeah, it's interesting. So for those of you that don't know, we were featured in a documentary called "For the Love of Buffalo." It's about our move to the great city of Buffalo from Long Beach, California, and I've heard it'll make you cry. And probably because you got to look at me, and yeah, that's traumatic enough. Um, we'll get started in just a bit. Check out the our YouTube page if you haven't. Um, y- we we here at Kangaroo Time, we have two goals. Our number one goal is we want to serve our customers and give them the best experience that we can give them. And number two, which is more about me. Number two, we want to have a place of work where people are proud, they feel safe, and they do their best work. So we have a culture of kindness here, and anything we can do to make our customers' lives better or our employees' lives better, that's the priority. We don't give an F about financial performance, though it is imperative and it is
No,
what keeps you
no
alive.
more Fs.
No more F's about financial performance, but we feel like it will inherently happen if we focus on those two things. Um,
Agree.
so, so please, guys, if you haven't done it yet, join our YouTube channel. There's just an embarrassment of wealth when it comes to content here. And in fact, I think, Beth, you've got like 10 different episodes on the YouTube channel,
My
and they're
15
all
minutes of
wonderful.
fame on the Kangarootime YouTube channel.
Hey, Beth became famous on YouTube, not necessarily just Kangaroo Time, but yeah, we're really proud of the partners that we've helped speak on our platform. And again, these things live and live forever here. Also, if you can go to our YouTube channel, or sorry, our Facebook group, and join KP Childcare. There's over 1,000 members in here. We've been pretty solid about doing some digital storytelling here. Um, I was telling Beth during that our Australian customers are finally getting hit with their first um, their first round of significant COVID, and so we're starting to really kind of share here to give those folks some support and love, and please let them know that you're thinking about them, because this is this they feel like they're in the crisis of all crises,
Yeah.
as you guys have been. Also, please hit our blog. We'd love to hear from you on our blog. Excuse me. Please, we'd love to. Marissa, who's driving here, has she's driving the screen share. She has been wonderful about sharing content, best practices, tools for you and your directors and your team. And we love sharing things there. So please join our blog and follow, and you'll get the latest and greatest content. Quick round of housekeeping. So we will be delivering continuing education credits and certificates. They'll be sent directly to you tomorrow. don't remind us, if you don't see those certificates tomorrow, we'll get them to you. We promise. Now, if it gets to Friday, maybe pop us an email. If you have Q&A, if you have questions that you want answered, please hit the button in the Zoom interface, the Q&A button, and push them there. Also use chat. We want to make this interactive. So tell us where you're from. Give Beth an amen, sister, or whatever, a pat on the back.
I see a lot of my friends in here too. So I see some people I know in real life here, Scott. That's really unusual on a webinar. So that's awesome.
That's awesome. I haven't even looked at the participants yet. And I usually in the background I'll mess with people, not to distract them, Beth.
Okay.
Your microphones and cameras are off. We will be recording this, and we will be shooting these out tomorrow. Again, I wanted to introduce Beth. She's an international speaker, workshop presenter, entrepreneur, and a darn good one. She also has been great with working with teams all around the country, and going and making sure directors are fresh and looking at things with a great perspective. So please reach out to Beth if you have a team that you feel like needs to be leveled up. And then from the business and education space to the fitness world, Beth's an avid yogi, and her and her husband do adorable poses on Facebook. So yeah, if you want to see Beth in action, yes, join her on Facebook. Today's discussion, Beth will be talking about leading your team with her coach approach to team leadership. Thanks so much, Beth, for joining us. And I'll say this, more than ever, we are in a workforce crisis, and this workforce that our centers really have to lever to do what they do. We need leadership more than ever because great employees, they want to work for great leaders. So welcome, Beth. This is such a great, timely topic. I'm going to jump off and let you do your thing, and I'll be back for Q&A.
Okay, well, I'll take it away. Thanks, Scott and Marissa. Okay, friends, this is a topic that's so near and dear to my heart. I'm going to talk to you today about the coach approach to management. So let me share my screen. And while I'm sharing my screen, I want to make sure that you have something to write with. I am a teacher, and when I know a thing, I teach a thing. So I'm going to give you a lot of good notes, maybe some downloads today, some things that may help you. But I really want you as leaders to walk away from here and say the next conversation that I'm going to have with a team member is going to be different because of what I learned today. I am very much a research geek. So if I'm going to teach you a thing, I'm going to research it. I'm going to research it. I'm going to practice it. I'm going to make sure that I understand the full capacity of what I am teaching you. And I want you to have strategies. Like I never want you to watch a webinar or anything that I teach you and think, okay, that was nice to hear. I feel inspired and now I'm moving on and I'll forget what you said. I want you to take these things into your center and into your next discussions with your team. So grab a pen and some paper. We're going to talk about resources to go from managing to coaching your people. All right. So as Scott mentioned, I do a lot of team building. So I speak at conferences and retreats. And in fact, Scott and I probably collaborated, I don't know, at this point over the last couple of years, 15 or 20 different projects. And we actually got to meet in real life at a couple of conferences in the last year. And we'll do that again coming up in, I think, March in Fort Lauderdale. But I also do team building at work. And then I do some interactive and consulting with centers. So that's kind of what I do in my world. Those are the three things I do. This is how I want to start this training today. I want to remind you what the great Maya Angelou said. It's people will forget what you said and people will forget what you did. People will never forget the way you made them feel. Scott mentioned we are in a crisis with staffing. I mean, go ahead and raise your hand and say, yep, that's me. If you've had any staffing difficulties in the last year, go ahead and just say, that's me. We've all had it. And let me tell you, friends, I'm living a dream. I'm not coming to you from a research classroom to say, oh, hey, here's some things I think I know. I mean, this is boots on the ground. And so I'm feeling it right along there with you. So when we think of the coach approach, there's a few benefits to that. And I hope to sell you on the benefits of a different way of approaching leading your team. So the first one is you want your employees to develop critical thinking skills of their own. You want them to be able to think for themselves. And I have a really good example living here in my house. So my daughter graduated from Baylor a couple of years ago with a degree in health and kinesiology with a minor in early childhood. And many of you know, a lot of you know me in real life and know that Stretch and Grow, which is a kids fitness and enrichment program that goes into preschools, has been my main job really for the last 23 years. I've always done training and coaching and mentoring business owners because I'm the trainer for Stretch and Grow. But I started Stretch and Grow when I had my daughter 23 years ago. She said, I never want to work for you, Mom, because I don't want to live my life stressed out like you have, because she's seen all the issues with employees. Well, I finally, after a couple of years of working as an early intervention specialist, got her to come back to the family business. And so I am right now trying to coach her rather than just telling her what to do, because I know that sometimes with my team, and I'm guessing a lot of you are the same way, we mom them and we don't manage them. We mom them because we want to give them the answer, because we feel like if we go ahead and give them the answer, it'll get them quicker from point A to point B. So we give them the answer and they get to point B. When they get to point B, they haven't gathered more skills. So I say this to you to tell you that right now, while I'm working with my daughter, it's really hard for me to not give her the answers and to not tell her what to do, is to teach her, okay, what would you do in this situation? What do you think you should do? And put those questions to her to help her think critically, because I do have the answers. And you know what? You do probably have all the answers for the things that your people need to come to you for. But you want them to develop their own critical skills so they're not coming to you every single time there's a problem or an issue and wanting you to solve it. So my question for you is, are you momming them or are you managing them? And then also, what I want you to avoid doing is getting sucked into what I call reverse delegation. That means you sit down at your desk, you've got something you need to work on today, and then all of a sudden it starts with the interruptions. I know that interruptions are one of the number one reasons that early childhood leaders cannot be productive. You sit down to work and then someone needs a potty break, or there's a behavior issue, or there's a parent problem. And so you're constantly being inundated with all the agenda that other people set for you. So we're going to talk about how to help back out of that. And then finally, you want your teachers, your employees to learn to be proactive and to take initiative on their own. And I think the coach approach definitely helps with that. So why is this important? Typically, managing is like a one-way street, right? Coaching relies on some communication going back and forth. So effective leaders, you're going to guide your team to the destiny. You're going to guide them with certain questions. I'm going to give you a list of do's and a list of don'ts today, because hopefully you have confidence in the people you've hired. Hopefully you've hired smart people. And now maybe you're thinking, have I? Well, I hope you have. And I think by telling them, I believe I've hired smart people, and I'm going to empower you to make these decisions. And then you give them the tools to help make the decision. People want to be heard right now. And I'll tell you, I have a friend who she's got her PhD, and she does a lot of coaching and consulting with private schools, K through 12. And she's just done several surveys with their staff on retention. And this is what they want. More than more money, more than more vacation days. They want to be heard. And so part of knowing that, because our early education staff is no different, right? They want to be heard. So part of knowing that is taking these concepts of coaching and then transferring them into your management and into your leadership. So there's a difference in coaching versus training and mentoring, right? So when you think of training and mentoring, that's when you're taking your knowledge and you're giving your knowledge to them. So training is your training, right? You have knowledge, you need to teach them what they need to know, think, and do at work. That's training. Mentoring, if you want your teachers to stay and you want them to bond and stay connected, you've got to make sure that you have mentors. You as the leader can't be everyone's BFF. You cannot be their BFF. You cannot be their BFF. Okay. Know that. You want to recruit leaders in your center, people who you trust, people who've been there, people who can step up and help show them this is what it looks like. This is what we're supposed to know they can do at work. When you engage them with a mentor, that's going to keep retention, because remember, everything really that you do at this point, you want it to be a retention strategy. What can you do to keep people? Because we know it's a whole lot easier to learn how to coach and train and mentor people than it is to go out and recruit and hire them, not knowing what you get. So this is about investing in the people that you have. Coaching is supporting and facilitating them to actively engage in their own growth and in their own knowledge. So that's kind of the difference in coaching, training, and mentoring. So here's a sample of a coach approach. So if you want to take notes, this might be a good time to kind of take notes. So a teacher comes to you and she says, I've got a problem. What should I do? So maybe the problem is it's a discipline problem. Let's say she has a child. We like to say in Stretch and Grow, whose thinking cap has fallen off. And she comes to you and says, what am I supposed to do here? So you ask her thoughts. Well, what do you think you should do? And I know it seems maybe a little bit sarcastic or a little bit trite, but it's not. You've got this issue. What do you think you should do? Because the truth is, if you've given them a solid training program, they've got skills and they need to be able to handle this behavior issue in the classroom without coming to you for help constantly, right? And so then at this point, you've given her some critical solutions, like what are your thoughts about what you think you should do? Then she begins to think for herself. And so now you're both able to operate in your lane because she feels more empowered to make decisions. So think of, rather than giving them the solution, what do you think you should do? You know, my director, she's been with me for almost 14 years now. And obviously the last year and a half, almost 2 years now, have been extremely taxing and extremely challenging on my team. And I'm sure that you've experienced exactly what I'm going through. She's tired, she's worn out, she can't do her job because she's being called into the classroom because of call outs. And, that we've got, we went through all this thing right before COVID of, great SOPs and great way to hit our metrics and great ways to engage with our schools and give the best customer service. And now everything is like, we're just in survival mode. And I bet you probably can agree with that. You're probably just in survival mode. But she kind of got into this thing to where I felt like every time there was an issue, she would come to me and complain to me about it. And I felt bad. And of course, I want to hear from her. I love her. I love her dearly. And I want to hear from her. And I want to hold space for what she's going through and all the things that are happening with the boots on the ground. But over a period of time, I felt like it was like sucking the energy out of me, like it was an energy vampire. And so I started coaching her a little bit around that and like, well, what do you think we could do about this? What are some other solutions? What are some other options? And then I got to the point where I said, the next time there's an issue, I need you to come to me with solutions, 3 solutions. Find some good solutions to these issues and then bring them to me and then let me see how I can help you put these into practice. So are you having an issue? Let's say start from the top, like from your directors. Is there any solution, any issue that they're having that you can come up with solutions together? You probably have all the answers, but you want him or her to have all of the answers. So I want you to think about that. So that's what the coach approach looks like. But in order to coach them effectively and to give them those questions like, well, what are your ideas about what you should do about it? What do you think you should do about it? What are some things that have worked for you in the past? What do you think might work? What have you tried? Tell me some strategies that you've used. Does she know or he know what's expected of them at work? Have you aligned your expectations in your training materials so they understand the journey that you're asking them to go on? And friends, I'm telling you, I see this all the time. There is a gigantic, huge disconnect in training and onboarding processes in childcare centers, massive disconnect. And I find a lot of it goes back to their training materials. Just they think, oh, let's have an orientation. So you bring your people in and you sit them down in a room and you give them their manual to go through and then you put them in the classroom and then you expect them to thrive and do well. Well, that's not working. It's not working because they're not reading it. I'm a big proponent of taking your manuals and putting them into modules. So if you want to jot down, I've got a free download. It's M2M Checklist. BethCannonSpeaks.com. And Marissa, if you get a chance, if you drop that in the chat, that way they can copy that, but that's a free checklist. And I teach you how to take that hot mess manual and put it into modules and using free tools. Like there's not a software, there's not a platform. It's just using some very simple free tools that anyone can get on the internet and converting your paper manuals into modules, something they can interact with, something that is a repeatable process, and make sure that your training programs are usable and actionable. So that's really, really important. So if you're not doing that, I want you to think about that. And when you think about the problems that you're having with your people, they don't know and understand, I want you to think about how were they trained? Because I do this a lot, and I get a hold of a lot of handbooks. Like people have me come in and say, Beth, help me with this handbook. And I look at it and I say, it's 285 pages. And they're like, well, I bought it from an attorney. Well, I'm sure you did. And all the things in here tell them what they cannot sue you for. However, they don't know how to do their jobs. They don't understand what the culture of your center is. They don't understand why it's important that they're in their seats, why it's important that they're not constantly calling out, or why it's important that they didn't schedule a dentist appointment at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday when maybe they could have gone after hours, or maybe they could have gone earlier in the morning, or, there's just different things. And you all understand the nuances of the things that are happening within your team, but having them really understand and comprehending helps tremendously. So, okay, Lori, if you want to grab that list, if you just go copy that link that Marissa just dropped in there, that M2M checklist.bethcannonspeaks.com, and as soon as you pop it in there, it'll send you an email with it in there. So you can anyone can grab that list. So, all right, let's move on. I want to talk to you about a coaching journey. So again, if you're taking notes, this is going to be a part where I want you to take notes. We've spent a lot of time evaluating our coaching, training, and mentoring process. And for my company, this is the journey that employees are going on. And you know what? Yours is really not any different than mine. So there's 4 phases to really helping them understand what that first year journey is. And you have to be intentional about it. Don't just have your orientation and say, okay, they passed a background check. I gave them a branded shirt so they know what to wear at work. And I put them in the classroom. So now we're covered on ratio. We're good to go. So much more than that. So I want you to think about phase 1. In the first phase, are you really, I'm sorry, guys, that keeps sketching forward. Are you really, really, really being intentional about teaching them what your core values are? I hope you have core values. I mean, if you listen to Scott talk in the beginning, he said, we have a culture of kindness. I've done so much work with Scott, and I hear him say often, we have a culture of kindness. We have a culture of kindness. And I can tell you, because I do so much work with Kangarootime, I see that culture of kindness. I see it in the way they serve their customers. I see it in the way that they honor their partners, the people they collaborate with, and I'm one of them. I see that culture of kindness all the time. What is the culture of your center? And do you know it? Do you speak it? Do you understand what it is? Do you have some SOPs, some standard operating procedures that they know and understand? And then when you get them in that alignment phase, and when I say alignment, I mean aligning them to who you are as a school and how you want them to act, what are their skills gaps? Because we don't always look at that critically in the beginning. You have to pay attention to their skills gap, because if you don't, you won't know how to coach them through this. You won't know where they need some extra training and really mentoring. So let's say, you have someone who is not really connecting with the kids really well, right? So if she's not really connecting with the kids really well, then there definitely needs to be some training around connecting with the kids. So you need to put that teacher with someone who understands how to get on their level, how to use their voice inflection when they're talking to them. That's so important. So assess what their skill gaps are. Maybe it's in the classroom. Maybe it's just in their personality. Maybe it's in their work ethic. Teaching, training, coaching, mentoring are all parts of it. So once you assess that, then in the next few weeks, they're going to move into the development phase, right? This is where you begin to implement your coaching opportunities and apply the coach approach. And again, I'm going to give you a list of do's and don'ts here coming up. So hang on for that. But then once you kind of start developing them, now you need to motivate them. You've aligned them, you've trained them, you've worked on developing them. Now you need to motivate them. So what motivates your teachers? This is what we know. There are intrinsic motivators and extrinsic motivators. The extrinsic, what can you give them? Your benefits, your pay. And truly, I'm telling you, with people who are educators, and I'm one of them, we don't always go into our profession thinking we're going to make a lot of money. We go into it because of the impact we want to make. If you ask your top performers right now, what's your why? I promise you, the majority of them will say it's the kids. I love the kids. The kids keep coming back to me. It's always going to be the kids. So So in knowing that, how can you show value and appreciate them? Maybe it's they want to be heard. I mean, maybe it is a Starbucks drink. Who knows? You need to know and understand what makes them feel appreciated, what makes them feel valued. And then also, are you celebrating growth with them? You know, when one of them maybe gets their CDA, or maybe they conquered a behavior issue. You know, they had this child who, you know, constantly, you know, just was struggling with self-control and struggling with interacting with their friends. And this teacher was relentless on working with this child. And now they've come to an understanding. She's figured out what this child's currency is, right? She's figured out how to motivate that child to engage, or how to motivate that child to redirect their behavior. So maybe their behavior isn't as aggressive toward their friends. That's a win. Are you celebrating that? Or are you just thankful she showed up? Think about the wins that are important to your teachers. And I'm going to give you a strategy also to where you can track what's going on with all your teachers. And then finally, it's the retention phase. Are they fulfilling a contract? Now, I'll tell you this. I have all my employees sign a one-year contract, and I would highly encourage you to do that as well. When you bring someone into your center, they are a teacher for a year. So I'm going to say that again. If you're not having them sign a one-year contract, rethink your process. You're not just bringing someone in to invest the money, because I know you probably spend about half of their yearly salary training them and getting them up and ready to go, and then they quit. Now, will they always stick with it? People are people. So no, people don't keep their promises, right? I mean, half of marriages end in divorce, and that was a promise that you made to spend your life with someone, and you have sex and kids with them, right? So it's a job, but it's important to know that they're here, they're engaged, you want them in their seats, and the expectation is that they're going to be here for a year. And in exchange for that, you are going to heavily invest in them to get them caregiver qualified, to pay for their CDA, to get them brought up to speed, to give them skills in working in your center. So you're benefiting them as well. So I think that's important. And then you're going to see them fly as a culture warrior. So think about the journey that your teachers take, and maybe make your own notes for that. Okay. All right, next. Here's where we're coming up on the do's and don'ts. So if you're multitasking, come back. We've been going for about 30 minutes right now. So I know that now you're in the cycle where your brain is cycling out. Maybe you've had 4 interruptions in the meantime, but I want you to really take a hold of these do's and don'ts, because if you're like, I want someone to tell me what to do, here you go, telling you what to do now. What I want you to do is to make sure you're checking in with your teachers at least once a quarter. Newsflash. Did you know that yearly reviews are worth about 0? I hope you're not doing that still. That is for you. That's just to make a milestone. You need to have one-on-ones with every single one of your people, whether it's you or a leader or a mentor. You need to have one-on-ones with your people on a regular basis. So make sure that you are focusing on connecting with them once a quarter. Okay. So that's going to be your very first do, connect once a quarter. Then make it a conversation for connection. Don't just have your list where you're saying, okay, these are the expectations. Were you excellent, good, fair, or poor? Think about that. You don't want to give them a scale to where it's going to demotivate them, because what if they're achievers? I mean, I know Scott mentioned I'm a yogi, and I still teach group fitness at Lifetime. It's a gym here in my community, and we get one-time yearly reviews. And I've done this. I mean, I have taught this stuff for 34 years. So I feel like I'm a decent instructor, but they always give you something to work on, and everybody has something to work on. So I'm not too proud to think that I don't, because I absolutely do. And it's good to get that feedback. But you know what it does to my soul every single time? How can I do better? What did I do? What did I do wrong? What did you see that I do wrong? Give me an example. I want to do better. What did I do wrong? And so instead of focusing on the great things that I do at that job, I focus on I'm terrible with names. And so it's like, well, here's your yearly review. We don't have any money to give raises. And can you really try to learn the members' names better? So it's demotivating, right? And it's demoralizing. And so I would recommend you say, hey, what's working, what's not working, and what needs to change. Okay, that's really important. You know, going over opportunities for growth. What's your opportunity for growth? What's my opportunity for growth? What do we do well? Okay, so having those conversations, it's really important to connect. And also, Instead of telling your teachers what they need to improve on, how about asking them what they think they need to improve on? Because guess what? If you've ever asked anyone that, they're going to tell you. Because the truth is, if my manager would come to me and say, hey, Beth, what do you think you need to work on? I would say, I am really not good with names because so many people come and go. I'm in a yoga room. It's darker. Half the time they're in down dog or in child's pose, and I don't get a chance to see their faces and make that connection. So there's not a lot of opportunity to really interact. So I could be better about that. I should be more intentional about greeting people at the door or as they're leaving, be more intentional about doing that face to name recognition. So asking your people like, hey, what do you feel like you need to work on? Because they're going to tell you. Also, be intentional about creating confidence where they excel. Celebrate where they excel. If you have the child whisperer working in your center, make sure they know they're the child whisperer. And then make sure that all of the people in the center know, hey, if you have a discipline problem, Miss Judy is awesome. Help her come into your room, and have her come into your room. She's going to help you with some really, really great strategies. Okay, I just saw the comment that I talk fast. So guys, okay, I'm going to be intentional about slowing it down. If you missed anything, make sure to go in and type in the chat. I just get so excited when I present content, and I know I talk fast. So if I've said anything too quickly, I apologize, and I'm going to slow it down now. Okay. Next, coach in the moment and seize every teachable experience. Sometimes we're afraid to have crucial conversations, and we're afraid to have them. Why are you afraid? Because you're afraid they're going to quit. So you don't want to walk in fear that someone's going to quit. Feedback is how we grow. Feedback is how we're going to level up. If you don't give specific information in that moment, you're going to miss a teachable opportunity. So let's say you hear a teacher that is a little bit short with a child. And, maybe it's just to walk in and say, hey, Miss Gina, how are you doing today? Are you okay? What's going on with so-and-so? And then let her know that you heard that exchange, and just say, okay, well, let's use our words and address this issue, and give her an example. Like, you step in and in that moment, coach her through that. And then after the fact, maybe just pop back in and say, hey, I noticed that you kind of seem like you're at the end of your rope. Do you need a break, or what can I do to help you work around that situation? Or how could you have handled that situation differently? So think about scripting in that way. And then again, choose to communicate authentically. Be an authentic communicator. Don't be fake, right? Let them know and understand what you need from them, because they probably want to give it to you. But think about the things that you shouldn't do, right? We're not going to do yearly reviews. You're not going to make it a formal interview. You're not going to have a rigid one-side agenda. One thing I really don't like about meetings are generally for the leader to give the people what the leader needs from them, or to get, hey, let's have a meeting, and I want to make sure face to face that you all hear me and you see me, and I tell you the things I need you to know. Don't make your meetings about that. Make your meetings about what your people are going to be needing from you. And then don't be afraid to ask hard questions, right? Allow time to pass so you're not getting frustrated and you're not fearful, because I promise you, if you're needing to have a crucial conversation, the longer you wait, the harder it is. But I want to ask you a question as a leader. Are you reactive to feedback for yourself, or are you receptive to feedback for yourself? Because if you personally are not receptive to feedback, and you react in a way that you feel attacked when someone comes to you with an issue, I want you to think through that, because we all can grow, and coaching is about letting them understand that you get it, and that you also, even as the leader, that you also are coachable. Okay, and guys, any questions, pop them in. I'm going to kind of be mindful on the chat now. So any questions that you have, make sure that you pop them in there. Okay, now let's address really quickly just a few key mindsets that you need to have. Creating a culture of accountability. So again, jot this down. Are you accountable? Sometimes, I work with lots of schools, and I see directors who are like, I just want to be removed from everything. So are you accountable for your time to the people who work for you? I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying is there a climate of accountability? A lot of the conversations that you're afraid to have with your staff is because you're afraid to hold them accountable, again, because you're afraid they're going to quit. Holding people accountable is not unkind. It's not cringy, even though it might feel that way at all. Holding people accountable is good to them, because the truth is, when you hire them and you set firm boundaries and you set firm expectations with, this is what I need you to know, think, and do, and then you hold them accountable to doing those things, that's not mean. You're protecting the culture of your center. So if you have someone who's constantly calling out, it's okay to have a conversation about, hey, let's talk about our policy for attendance. What is the barrier that's keeping you from showing up to work? I mean, sometimes life happens and things happen, but majority of time, most people can make it to work and follow through with your attendance policies if they are intentional and understand what happens when they're not there. Okay. So next, you want to motivate and not dictate. So when someone's having issues, let's use that same example, not showing up from work. Ask them, hey, what motivates you to be here? I want you to tell me about a really great day that you had at work in the last 6 months. Tell me about a great day. Okay, tell me about a day that made you feel anxious. They'll give you a couple of examples. I want to do everything I can to help you have those great days, because when you're here, it means so much to the kids. The kids love and crave that consistency of knowing they're going to see that same face. Of course, the parents love it because they want consistency with the kids. But also, when you're in your seat, that means that someone else doesn't have to get out of his or her seat and come sit in your seat. So it's really important that you're here. What are some barriers that might keep you from being here? And again, coach them around that. Let go of the belief that it's your job to have all of the answers. And that's another thing. As leaders, we think we have to have all the answers. I know I am the worst about this. And the truth is, I've done my job for 23 years. So I know what it takes generally. And I do know most of the answers. You probably do know most of the answers. But when I tell people all of the answers, I don't give them the license to come up with their own answers. And then here's another thing. There are not all the same answers to all the same questions. Yes, I have solutions that I think and probably will work, but guess what? What if I take my years of knowledge and experience off the table and I free people up to come up with their own solutions? And I'm going to tell you, these Gen Zers, which are your people who are like 25 and under, they have a different perspective. They see the world very differently. I mean, I think every generation does, but I am learning that if I listen to them, they have some really good ideas and they have some really different approaches to things. And so when I step back in humility and say, maybe someone else has a better solution than I do, I free myself up. Number one, it's not on my plate. Number two, I truly believe that everyone can grow and improve. And then finally, I have to be slow down and to be willing to take this time to coach. So I would ask you, are you willing to take the time to coach people through situations? Meaning where you sit down with them and you notice that there had been an issue and you ask them, hey, what happened there? What led to that? What are some of your thoughts on how that might have gone differently? How would you have liked to have seen that scenario play out? Do you have ideas on how you could get to that outcome that you wish that you would have had instead of the one that you did have? So again, it's coaching is about questions. It's not about telling your people what to do. So you've got to have those right mindsets with people. And then finally, I want to talk to you about a grow meeting. And guys, we've got about 6 minutes here, so I'm going to speed it up just a little bit. Marissa, I'll get you the slide deck so that you can share this with people. So if you miss it, but I want to make sure you understand what a grow meeting is. So one of the things that I said don't do was don't have yearly reviews. What I want you to do is to have what's called a grow meeting with your people. So grow stands for goal. You have a goal. What do you want to accomplish with this connection? R is the reality, right? What is actually happening here? O are options. What could you do about it? And then the W is what's next, meaning what are you definitely going to do about it? And when are you going to do the thing? So that's what a grow meeting is. Okay. And when you have these grow meetings with your people, I am going to encourage you to somehow track your teachers. Make a Google spreadsheet. You know, one of my favorite things to do is to track teachers on a Trello board. So if you're not familiar with Trello, go to bethcannonspeaks.com/Trello. I've got some information there for you on that. Trello, it's free. It's a free system on the internet. It's a project management board. If you're not new to me, you know I use Trello for everything in my life. But if you have a Trello board, and think of a board, and then on the board are lists, and underneath the list are cards. Every single time I or my directors have communication with our employees on an issue, whether it's a positive, a good karma move, or a call-in, or a concern, everything goes in this Trello board. When we have our grow meetings, we've got just kind of some notes, some questions that we ask through that grow meeting. And we put these all inside of the Trello board. So there's a card underneath every person's name. So that way I remember what conversations we have. I remember those outcomes, and I remember them because guess what? Behavior sometimes will repeat themselves and they'll come back around. And so when they come back around, you want to make sure that you address what happened before. Say, okay, hey, you came to me with this issue before. We came up with some strategies. You had some really, really great ideas, but we're seeming to have this issue again. What are your thoughts on what we could maybe do differently? Because if we want a different outcome, what can we do differently to get there? Okay, so if you don't have a system for tracking your teachers and you're not paying attention to what's going on and you're just letting things fly at you, then you're not going to be able to use the strategy effectively. It's highly effective, but I'm telling you, friends, if you want different results, you have to do something different. And this is what you're thinking to me. You're thinking, I don't have time. If you do things now, especially now in January, you're fresh, you're new. Well, I mean, I don't know, maybe you're not fresh, you're new. The calendar is a fresh new year. We might not be feeling so fresh, but if you take the time to do things now, you are going to exponentially multiply your time in the future. Okay. So yes, it might take a minute for you to figure out some system that works in your brain, but when you get your SOPs, meaning your standard operating procedures down, and you have systems, when you stick to the systems are going to work. And when it comes to coaching and managing your people, you have to have systems, or otherwise you forget, they forget, and you want to be more strategic about that communication going forward with them. So Scott and I are going to be giving some more continuing education coming up here this weekend. And we're going to talk about a lot of this coach approach inside of Leaders Lounge. It's a free summit. It's online. You'll find it at leaderslounge.solutions, and put /Scott. Go take a look at it if you haven't signed up for that already, because that is it's free. It's free to attend. It's extra if you want your professional development certificates. But I am a big, big believer in educating and motivating your people. So make sure you give them opportunities for professional development. Make sure that they understand as they're walking through their time with you that you want to pour into them, right? That you want to give them strategies and systems and ideas that help them level up as leaders. So I want to go back to a couple of this right here. I want to go back and I want to hit on this. So if you're watching, maybe take a screenshot of this, and I would love for you guys to engage. We've got quite a few of you on here right now. So I want to go back to this particular slide right here. So tell me, which ones of these feel hard for you? Like when you look at these things I should be doing, which one of these do you feel harder? Which ones do you feel like you should do better at? So if you hopefully you guys are using your chats. If you're multitasking, come back and go into the chat and tell me which of these things you feel like you could do better at when you're looking at your dues of coaching. Are you guys there? Okay. Well, I will tell. Angela says you're utilizing your screenshots. LOL. Okay, Angela, tell me what you think. Like, tell me how you are. What of these things do you feel like you can be even a little bit more intentional about? Right. I'll tell you that I don't always seize every moment. And Sierra, you said the same thing. You said the exact same thing. I don't always seize on every moment. Carlene, you say, ask her what she would like to improve on. That's awesome. What would they like to improve on? So as leaders here, I would ask you, like, what would you like to improve on? And that's what this question is all about. What would you like to improve on? Walk away from this being a little bit self-aware. Beatrice, you said boundaries for healthy relationships. Ooh, that is really, really good. I find that a lot of us are helpers. Like if you study the Enneagram, a lot of leaders are, in early childhood are twos, which means they're helpers, or they're nines, they're peacemakers. And so oftentimes we don't set good boundaries because we think we're put on this on this earth to really help all of the people. Okay, now you guys are starting to come up. Carolyn, hey, Carolyn, you say you don't always seize your teachable moments. Instead, you just do it yourself, right? Because that's the easiest thing, because then you don't have to go through the pain of coaching, training, and mentoring someone. And that's always super hard. Norma, you say, ask her what she'd like to improve on. Yeah, that's good. And hopefully everyone would say, I have something that I would like to improve on. And there's my friend Amanda. Hey, Amanda, checking in with the teachers once a quarter. Got way too busy at the end of the year and that part slipped. I want to get back into that habit. And Amanda, you've got lots of tools to do that. Chris Lynn says, creating confidence. Teachers are the hardest on themselves. Yeah, need to be the cheerleader and notice when they're doing great things. And that is what's really great about having those things in a Trello board, because we've gotten really intentional that every time we reach out to them and say, hey, this is something that we think that you're doing that's really, really great, it reminds them, right? And it brings them back to what greatness they have. And it makes you feel good. And, some things that can just be very simple, send them a voice memo, send them a text message. Some people write them a personal card. I have here in my desk drawer, I've got all kinds of personal cards and notes. And so one of the things that I love to do is send personal cards and notes, because people don't get those a lot. Carolyn, you said you have very reactive facial expressions and not do a good job of hiding my disappointment. Okay. So Carolyn, my mom would say this: fix your face. I am with you, sister. What I'm generally thinking comes across my face. And it's funny, now that my daughter's working with me, she's like, she'll say, like, you need to fix your face. Like, we had a group training and there was a behavior that was happening. And I think the look on my face was just like, what is actually happening here? And my daughter was like, Mom, your face, pay attention to your face. So Carolyn, I feel you. And so, but here's the good news. You are self-aware about that and you're mindful of it, right? You're mindful of knowing and understanding that you do have that reactive face. And so I've had to apologize for my face sometimes. Angela, you agree with Carolyn, have a difficult time training new staff because I always worry about having too many staff members in a classroom in order to train properly. So the possibility to relative work for me. Oh, good. Yeah, Angela, it is awesome. But when you say you've got a difficult time training new staff, I want you to really think about, getting if you don't have your manuals into training modules, get some sort of online training. So you've got videos that they're watching, that you've got assessments that you're checking for understanding and making sure, like, okay, they get what they're supposed to do, that you've assessed, that you've presented this information, these interactive videos, you've given them assignments, you've given them hands-on things to do throughout the training, and make sure that they understand, again, what they're supposed to know, think, and do. Because if you wait until you're in that frenetic space, which most of us are right now, it's really hard to do that. Carolyn says, big time RBF. Okay, if y'all don't know what RBF is, look it up. We're going to keep it clean here, but I understand the RBF for sure. And Kawana, you're a teacher. It'd be great to take back to your school. Okay, Kawana, you're a teacher. If you're a teacher, you're a leader. I promise you. If you are a teacher, my friend, you are a leader. So absolutely get a copy of this. I know Marissa is going to put this up on YouTube, and it will live there for infinity and beyond. And so, yeah, go get it. And it's a different, it's a different way of doing things. And I think this is what we're really learning now. Like, we are learning that we can't any longer do things the way that we've done them in the past. Like, we need to do things in a way that seem fresh and that seem like we really care. So if you're a leader, I know that you understand that the workforce has definitely shifted. It's definitely an employee's market right now, right? And that's another thing about these Gen Zers. They've somehow figured out how to get us to pay them more money. And we're doing it, right? We're doing it because we know that we want to keep them in their seats. Carolyn says, okay, Carolyn, let's see. What did you say about Trello? You've fallen off the wagon, need to get back on it for sure. Starting to apply it to your modules this year and cleaning them up. Okay, Carolyn, and Carolyn was a student in my Stick to Strategy Academy, and so was Amanda. So you all know, you've got the tools, you know exactly what it takes, but it's just doing them. So you've got to go back to like, where's your pain point, right? Like at what point are you in so much pain with the specific issue that you're willing to change and that you're willing to make that difference? Okay, Scott totally had to Google RBF. Scott, okay, I'd love to see your face again. I want you to come back on and I want you to show us your RBF, because I bet you have a good one. I bet you have a good one. Is that it?
I can't do my RBF without laughing.
I bet Marissa can attest to the fact that you probably have one though.
Yes, Marissa's always telling me to fix my RBF for sure.
Yes, to fix your face. So guys, Marissa said Scott's all smiles, of course, because he's got the culture of kindness, right? All smiles, always the culture of kindness.
No, I just work with such great people. It is hard not to smile.
Well, that's awesome. And, and I think that the majority of us watching here, we work with great people too, but we do see a lot of behaviors that are challenging, and behaviors that really can threaten the stability of our financial stability, of our ability to do business, of our ability to operate. And not only that, just the bare bones of the stuff, but to sustain and maintain a good culture. Because the truth is, and Scott, you know this because you've been in a lot of centers, it's the estrogen cloud. It's the estrogen cloud. And from the estrogen cloud reigns bitterness and jealousy and frustration and anger. But there also can be great things from that, right? There can be support and love and camaraderie. So there's so many different dynamics that can come out of teams like this. But as leaders, we have to be intentional. Carolyn says she had an epic fail interaction with one of her teachers last year and have to work on that. And here's the thing. We're going to screw up. In fact, my word of the year is grace. Did you guys do words of the year, Scott?
We did. Yes, we absolutely did. And we kind of inherently do it when we do our values. And kindness is always big for us, but thoughtfulness was our word of the year.
Okay, so as a company, you have a word for the year.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, my personal word for the year is grace. I need to learn to give it a little more. I need to learn to receive it a little bit more. I am extremely hard on myself. And, there's so many things going on, and we all make mistakes, right? We all miss things or slip up or forget things or have that RBF when we really should have a smile on our face, right? So if
Beth,
it does not bring grace, it has no place.
You said something earlier about about identifying your environment and, with the estrogen cloud or whatever it is. And I've always felt like one of the biggest killers in an organization is a culture of gossip. And I heard Dave Ramsey say this one time, and he said something about his company, and I love his leadership stuff. But he had said the only way to contradict a culture of gossip is to have a culture of sharing. So I think, to your point, if you identify those things that are culture killers, you got to figure out what the adverse is or like what the remedy is. And then you double down on deploying those things. So like if somebody wants to know my salary, I will tell them. If somebody wants to know, I try to be as transparent as I can be, almost to a fault. Almost to where it's like it's like a little unsanitary, I guess. But again, for me, it's better to double down on a culture of sharing, right?
Absolutely, and it's that it is that open door. So when you give them space to let go and to unleash and to vent and to make sure that they're heard and understood, I do definitely think that will squash it. But I also know, and for those of you guys who are listening, you probably have these people in your centers. There's an endorphin almost released when they spill the tea. about something. There's
Yeah.
some sort of endorphin, and so we've got to shift that tide and help them understand how this is really toxic. This can really be toxic. And I'm doing a team training for a school up in Minnesota next month, and I just got off the call, and I'm like, what are some issues you're having? And this is what they said. They've got a few schools, and so when teachers go into different schools to cover, they come back and say, oh, it's terrible there, or oh, they have it way better over there than we have it over here. And I'm like, well, what about telling them, like, you're so valuable to me, I need to leverage your greatness over here at the school. So when you go over there, can you take the greatness that you have, and when you get there, don't come back and complain to me. I need you to give me solutions for how we can duplicate the greatness we have going on at this center. And so they were like, oh, never thought to have that conversation. But it's having those conversations that are going to begin to change the tide of the culture.
Absolutely. Oh, and just again, it goes back to mindset too, and how, gosh, I think we've all lived in that weird decay of being at the water cooler and talking shit, or like, to say, living in the negativity. And for whatever reason, we are creatures of assimilation. And if the thoughts are negative, if the talk tracks are negative, all of a sudden you are in that shitty place. So it's just, and it's great to remind the great leaders on your team of that too. Let's keep it in a good space. Let's be optimistic. We're going to solve problems. We're not going to bitch about them.
No bitching without pitching.
That's right. I love that.
Okay, well, this has been good. Thanks for everyone who came on. I hope you learned some good stuff. Marissa, I'll get you a copy of the slide deck so that you can share it out when you send certificates. And Scott, I will be seeing you. We've got Leaders Lounge coming up in a couple of days. So you're going to talk about your why. So Software Guy, who's always talked about software stuff, is talking about your why. So can you give me like just a little teeny tiny bit of a sneak peek of what you're going to tell us?
Yeah, I think it is so simple actually, it's impossible to do really big things, right? It's nearly impossible. And if we aren't identifying with those levers that drive us to work the extra hours, to do the two most important things, which is taking care of your customers and taking care of your employees, you just won't have the superpower you need. So you have to attach yourself and really identify why you're doing it. And I think it's obvious, right? We all need to go into every endeavor with that extra intrinsic motivation. But I'm going to challenge each of you to really dig in and figure it out and create your ethos statement. So I can't wait for you guys to see it. I think my ethos is driven by being able to serve so many of you. It's also driven by servant leadership and really wanting to be the best for my employees. So identifying that why, it just gives you that energy to shoot you out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning when you do not want to get up. So yeah, super excited to share with everybody.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to have you. And thanks everyone for coming on today. I hope you took away some nuggets that you can use in your next approaches with your team coming up in this week. Like, don't miss out on those teachable opportunities.
Awesome, everybody. Thanks so much. Please reach out if we can be of any help, and we will see you next time. Beth, awesome job. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.